Did you know that about 87.9% of your daily behavior operates on autopilot, dictated by subconscious habits and patterns formed in the past? This means that the vast majority of your actions, reactions, and consequently, the results you reap, are not the fruit of a conscious choice in the present, but rather echoes of decisions made back then. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood looking backward, but it can only be lived looking forward. This tension between past and future resolves itself in the only place where we have real power, the now. Your life, at this exact moment, is the precise sum of every decision you have ever made. Every yes, every no, every step taken or avoided. And the most disconcerting part, the freedom you might long for tomorrow may be trapped exactly in the choices you refuse to make today. Before we unveil how this subtle dynamic shapes your existence, allow yourself a moment, like this video, and consider subscribing. What is to come has the potential to redefine the architecture of your reality. There was a time, not so distant, when the voice of Earl Nightingale echoed through the radios, a beacon of clarity in the fog of routine for millions of people. Nightingale was not a reclusive academic. He was a man who experienced war, observed human nature, and deciphered what he called the strangest secret: we become what we think about most of the time. But this maxim, so simple on the surface, carries an abyssal depth when applied to the fabric of time in our lives. He realized that directed thought, conscious choice, was not just a mental exercise, but the very tool for building the future. Your present, he would say, is not an accident, but a direct, almost mathematical result of the mental and behavioral construction site of your past. Every thought nurtured, every action deliberate or neglected, was a brick laid in the edifice you inhabit now. Think of this not as an ethereal metaphor, but as an almost neurobiological process. Modern neuroscience confirms what Nightingale intuited. Our repeated thoughts sculpt neural pathways in our brain, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. When you ruminate on worries, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with anxiety. When you practice gratitude, you cultivate the neural networks linked to well-being. Each choice to focus on one thought or another, each decision to act or procrastinate, not only defines the moment, but literally reconfigures your brain's hardware, making certain patterns of thought and behavior more likely in the future. It's like tracing a path in tall grass. The more you pass through it, the more defined it becomes. The easier it is to follow it again, even if it doesn't lead where you really want to go. The past doesn't just inform the present, it actively paves it through the structures we build in our own mind. This perspective collides head-on with the seductive narrative of chance and victimization that permeates our contemporary culture. We live immersed in a deafening noise of distractions, of external blame, of instant gratifications that promise us relief, but rob us of agency. It is more comfortable to believe that we are leaves in the wind, subject to circumstances, than to admit the uncomfortable truth. We are the silent architect, often unconscious, of our own journey. We point the finger at the economy, at the boss, at luck, while ignoring the sovereign power that resides in the quality of our daily choices, from what we consume mentally to the conversations we have and the tasks we prioritize or postpone. The psychologist Julian Rotter called this locus of control. People with a predominantly external locus of control tend to believe that their lives are governed by forces beyond their reach: destiny, luck, other people. Whereas those with an internal locus of control believe they are the main agents of their own results. Although external factors undeniably influence our lives, the trap lies in adopting an external locus as an excuse for inaction or for the perpetuation of self-destructive patterns. It is a form of self-deception that offers superficial comfort, the exemption from responsibility, at the cost of our ability to change and grow. Instant gratification, offered by social networks, Easy entertainment and unbridled consumption acts as a powerful anesthetic against the discomfort of responsibility. Why face the difficult task, the uncomfortable conversation, the necessary habit change, when we can get a small dose of dopamine with just a few clicks? This incessant search for momentary relief prevents us from making significant choices. Those that, although they may require effort and short-term discomfort, are the true seeds of a more rewarding future aligned with our values. Do you recognize that uncomfortable feeling of being adrift? That mismatch between the life you dream of and the reality that presents itself day after day? Perhaps a latent frustration, a feeling of unrealized potential, a cycle that repeats itself despite your superficial efforts to change it. This internal conflict is not a sign of weakness, but a call from your own conscience. It is the echo of responsibility knocking at the door, asking to be recognized. The inconvenient truth is that the current landscape of your life, your relationships, your career, your health, your inner peace, is a faithful mirror of the seeds planted by your previous decisions. Accepting this is not about carrying guilt, but rather claiming power. This dissonance you feel, this internal friction, is what Leon Festinger called cognitive dissonance. The mental stress that arises when we hold contradictory beliefs or when our actions do not align with our values or stated intentions. It is your psyche signaling an incongruity, a deviation from the route that you, on some deeper level, know you should follow. Ignoring this signal is like ignoring the warning light on the car dashboard. You can keep driving for a while, but eventually, the underlying problem will take its toll. Frustration is not the enemy, it is a messenger. The repetitive cycle is not bad luck. It is an unresolved pattern crying out for conscious attention. Unrealized potential is not a condemnation. It is an invitation to choose differently. The human tendency is to flee from this discomfort, projecting blame outward or seeking distractions. But existentialist philosophy, especially in the voice of Jean-Paul Sartre, reminds us that we are condemned to be free. This freedom implies a radical responsibility for our choices and for the creation of our own meaning. Therefore, facing the current landscape of your life as a reflection of past choices is not about sinking into remorse, but about recognizing the extent of your creative power. If your past choices created this, imagine what your present choices can create next. It is the recovery of your agency, the affirmation of your role as the protagonist of your own story. And herein lies the crucial turning point, the insight that Nightingale so eloquently defended. If the past shaped the present, then the present is the exclusive raw material for sculpting the future. Power does not lie in lamenting what was or fearing what will come, but in taking absolute control of the only time that truly exists, the now. The choice you make in this instant to learn something new, to have a difficult conversation, to break a limiting pattern, to focus on what really matters, is the true chisel that will shape your tomorrow. Freedom is not in the absence of responsibility, but in the courage to embrace it fully. It is understanding that every decision, however small it may seem, is a vote for the type of person you are becoming and the future you are building. This is the core of the practice of mindfulness or full attention, bringing awareness to the present moment, observing our thoughts, emotions, and impulses without judgment, and then deliberately choosing our response. It is not about controlling every thought that arises, an impossible task, but about choosing which thoughts to invest our energy in and which actions to take next. Think of the constant battle within us, described by so many wisdom traditions and confirmed by neuroscience. The struggle between the limbic system, our more primitive and reactive part, which seeks immediate pleasure and avoids pain, and the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, long-term planning, and impulse control. Every time you give in to an impulse of procrastination of angry reaction, of seeking empty gratification, you strengthen the neural pathways of the limbic system. Every time you take a deep breath, pause, and make a conscious choice aligned with your goals and values, you exercise and strengthen your prefrontal cortex. Stoic philosophy offers us powerful tools here. The clear distinction between what is under our control, our judgments, our intentions, our actions, and what is not, external events, others' actions, the past. By focusing our energy exclusively on what we can control, our choices in the now, we release an immense amount of mental energy that was previously wasted on useless worries or resentments. Each small conscious choice, as taught by the Japanese concept of Kaizen, continuous improvement, accumulates over time. Choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator, reading 10 pages of a book instead of scrolling the feed, expressing appreciation instead of criticism. These micro decisions are the atoms that make up the molecule of a transformed life. True freedom is not doing whatever one wants at any moment, which often leads to the slavery of impulses, but having the ability to choose to act for the benefit of your future self in alignment with what you value most. Imagine, for a moment, the clarity that emerges when you cease to be a reactive passenger and become the deliberate pilot of your existence. Imagine the integrity of living in alignment with your deepest values, where your daily actions are conscious, steps towards a greater purpose. This is not a distant utopia, but the natural consequence of bringing intention and awareness to the choices of the present. It is the difference between existing adrift and navigating with purpose. The peace that comes is not that of inertia, but that of coherence, the quiet strength of one who knows they are actively weaving the tapestry of their own destiny, thread by thread, choice by choice. Living as the deliberate pilot means engaging in a continuous process of self-knowledge and clarification of values. What really matters to you? What principles do you want to guide your actions? Without this internal compass, it is easy to be diverted by the currents of social expectations, fears, or fleeting desires. When your daily actions begin to consistently reflect your fundamental values, a sense of integrity and authenticity flourishes. This resonates with Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory, which posits that optimal psychological well-being arises when our innate needs for autonomy, feeling in control of one's own choices, competence, feeling effective in our actions, and relatedness, feeling connected to others, are satisfied. Conscious choices aligned with values directly nurture autonomy and competence. Think of the hero's journey, an archetype described by Joseph Campbell. The hero is called to leave the ordinary world, often a state of passivity or unconsciousness, and embark on an adventure involving challenges, trials, and, crucially, difficult choices. It is through these choices that the hero transforms and brings a benefit back to their community or to themselves. Refusing the call, avoiding the difficult choices, is to remain in the ordinary world, perhaps safe, but fundamentally unsatisfactory. The peace that arises from this deliberate life is not the absence of difficulties, but the tranquility that comes from knowing you are facing life actively and congruently. It is the deep satisfaction that Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described as flow, the state of being so immersed and engaged in a challenging and meaningful activity that time seems to disappear. This state is often accessed when we act with purpose, using our skills to the limit, guided by conscious choices. You are weaving your unique tapestry, and each choice is a colored thread. The question is, are you choosing the colors and the ESE pattern consciously, or are you letting the threads tangle randomly? The beauty and meaning of the final work depend on the choices you make now. The fundamental question, then, is not what the past did to you, but what you will do with the now that has been given to you. What essential choice are you postponing today, knowing deep down that it is the key to the future you desire? If this exploration of the power of your choices resonated with you, if the idea of building a more conscious and aligned future inspires you, I invite you to continue this journey with us. Like this video if it brought you any insight. Comment below what choice you commit to making today, and of course subscribe to the channel for more content that helps you awaken to the transformative power of the present and become the deliberate architect of your life.